Thank you, Dr. Bharti sir, for giving me this opportunity, and I am really happy. And I have taken a lot of points from this course, which is a really wonderful course. And I will be sharing my this thing of overview and legal issues. All the talks were very interesting, and all the speakers, including you, were very interesting, and they completed the course very nicely, including Dr. Rishi Mohan, Dr. Ashu, Dr. uh, Rohit Shetty, etc. Post-LASIK ectasia, as has been said earlier by Dr. Bharti, is a known risk factor and a rare but serious complication of laser visual correction. There occurs progressive steepening and thinning of the cornea after corneal refractive surgery. It can occur following any kind of refractive surgery like LASIK. It can be there in surface ablation. It has been seen in with SMILE. It was seen with radial keratotomy or astigmatic keratotomy surgery. The hypothesis is that corneal refractive surgery disrupts and thereby alters the structural integrity of the cornea. LASIK reduces corneal structural integrity both by reducing overall available load-bearing tissue and by shifting the load-bearing responsibility to the structurally weaker posterior corneal stroma, because we are making a flap and we are giving the load-bearing responsibility to the residual stromal bed. Post-LASIK ectasia, it was first reported in 1998 by Theo Seiler in a case of formoplastic keratoconus. In majority of cases, it occurs within a year of surgery. In one surgery, it is reported to occur late 6 to 11 years after the LASIK surgery, and has been pointed out by Dr. Rohit Shetty that it has got some association with the hormonal changes, PCOD, and development of thyroid. So these can be the risk factors which can lead to changes, systemic hormonal changes and changes in the corneal surface and corneal integrity in the later age group during pregnancy, lactation, etc. Recent biomechanical studies have reinforced the importance of residual stromal bed thickness after LASIK. Both stress strain analysis and cohesive tensile strength analysis indicate that corneal strength is significantly greater in the anterior 40% of the corneal stroma than in the posterior 60%. Further, the corneal flap contributes minimally to the tensile strength of the cornea after the LASIK. So better it is to make a minimal thickness of the corneal flap or do a surface procedure, which is now increased, and it has gained popularity. Thus, LASIK reduces corneal structural integrity both by reducing overall available load-bearing tissue and by shifting the load-bearing responsibility to the structurally weaker posterior corneal stroma. When the complication arises, it does not necessarily mean that the patient was a poor candidate for the surgery, that the surgery was contraindicated, or that there has been a violation of the standard of care. Post-LASIK ectasia typically is a result of abnormal corneal morphology or thickness. So this has to be kept in mind and borne in mind, and that has been overlooked prior to the surgery. So risk factors for keratoconus are, as has been pointed out by others, that preoperative susceptibility of the cornea. The major risk factors should be looked at. Weak biomechanical properties like abnormal topography and preoperative vegetative corneal diseases like keratoconus, formoplastic keratoconus, pellucid marginal degeneration, they should be ruled out. And younger age patient where the cornea is not yet developed properly, that should be avoided. Patient sometimes the keratoconus they appear at the later age group, and if we are operating at the younger age group, so we are missing that. And low preoperative pachymetry is indicator for the keratoconus development. Risk factors for keratoconus are a severe biomechanical impact from surgery occurs by the high percentage of altered tissue, as has been very rightly pointed out by Dr. Bharti, that PTA more than or equal to 40% is at risk. Low residual stromal bed due to excessive laser ablation for high correction or multiple retreatments. When the residual stromal bed thickness is equal to or less than 250 micron or half of the pre-operative thickness, then there is an increased risk. We have made a thick LASIK flap. This has been rightly pointed out by Dr. Bhupesh. Corneal thickness, degree of myopia, and residual stromal breadth are interrelated, and they can be played upon during the procedure, and we can decrease the risk of development of keratoconus. Small treatment zones causing abnormal focal stress distribution is another important factor which can lead to development of the keratoconus. And lastly, if there is any severe trauma after the surgery, like aggressive eye rubbing, which is common with allergic conditions, or when we have done LASIK enhancements, and if there is any source of blunt corneal trauma, these are the risk factors which can lead to development of keratoconus. And most reported cases of ectasia after LASIK had at least one of the risk factors which are present with them. There have been case reports of ectasia developing in patients even without the risk factors after LASIK and surface ablation. Ectasia can also occur after uncomplicated surgery, even though candidates are appropriately screened. But definitely, the role of hysteresis has been said by Dr. Ishimon should be another important factor which has to be taken care of. So incidence of post-operative post-LASIK ectasia with older screening technology was 1 in 2,500. Now with the newer screening technologies, it has come down to 1 in 4 to 5,000 cases. So this has been good thing. And coming to the second part of the talk of the malpractice lawsuit, which now in our country has also increased in last many years, and they bear an enormous responsibility on us, and because of the social media and active presence of everybody who come and who can see and screen through the Google what has been the cause of decreased vision and why this complication has occurred. So lawsuits are increasing. So lawsuits for the LASIK account for approximately 30% of all ophthalmology malpractice claims. Patients state that they were not adequately explained the risk involved. They alleged that the doctor should not have proceeded with the procedure because of the patient had signs of keratoconus. So high astigmatism, high K values, thin corneas, they can be a risk factor if they are not been addressed, or we have not asked the patient that there are some risk factors in your condition, but we can try it, and if it develops, then we can manage it. We have to come for frequent follow-up. A prominent New Jersey laser eye surgeon has agreed to settle a medical malpractice lawsuit for $2 million after performing a corrective vision procedure on a man who should have been ruled out due to a pre-existing condition. The lawsuit alleged that he was not properly screened before undergoing the eye surgery, as he had a condition known as steep corneas, which led to the bulging of the cornea known as corneal ectasia in both eyes. So a simple steep cornea like 46, 47, 48 diopters can produce a lawsuit. On August 12 in 2011, a judgment in the amount of $45 million was entered against LASIK surgeon Nick Sarli, MD, and his professional corporation. On June 2009, a Manhattan jury returned a verdict against Dr. Nick Sarli versus Dr. Devdas for his medical negligence in having performed LASIK surgery on a patient who was not a good candidate for surgery because of the condition of the corneas. As a result, the evidence showed that Mr. Devdas developed a visually disabling condition like post-LASIK ectasia. So post-LASIK ectasia is an important condition. If it appears, a patient can take you to the court of law. Another case with the similar condition of post-LASIK ectasia, the patient had the doctor be there. Liabilities of doctor arising under statutories in India is, as per existing laws in India, cases for medical negligence of the doctors can be filed under following enactments at the option of patient. A complaint for deficiency of service can be filed before the Consumer Forum under the Consumer Protection Act 1986. A civil suit for damages in civil suit can be filed. A complaint under Section 304A of Indian Penal Code in criminal law for the attempt to harm the patient can also be filed. a complaint to the Medical Council of India or the State Medical Council for deregistration of a doctor on account of negligence. All these things at all these places in India, the patient can take you to the court of law. Several cases has been reported under against ophthalmologists, and decisions have been taken by National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission (NCDRC). It is reported that 942 cases of medical negligence were decided in from 2002 to 18. Out of these, 30 were related to ophthalmology. A total of 73.3% of the alleged cases of medical negligence in ophthalmology were proved, and compensation for the cases ranged between 2 lakh and 10 million. So for variety of cases. So it is very good part that AIU has developed an informed consent for the various ophthalmologic surgeries, including LASIK, and we now take this informed consent into account, and that is very much available on net and at AIU's site. To summarize, thorough preoperative workup should be done, strictly follow the guideline, explain all pros and cons to the patient and the attendants. If in doubt, better to wait or do not go for corneal refractive surgery at all. Take opinion from your experienced colleagues, and take informed consent to conclude. If you know the enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory you will also suffer a defeat. And if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. So it is better to know it better, the development of ectasia and the importance of corneal topography and stresses and everything which has been referred to in this particular course. I thank you, Dr. Bharti, for giving me this opportunity to share my views and share my experiences. Thank you.